Okay, so
Right.
thank you so much for taking the time for this. Obviously, it's quite a big thing. If you want to just start by introducing yourself, who you are, where you're from, things
Yeah.
like that.
All right. Brilliant. Well, I'm Freddie. I'm from York. I go to University of Leeds, and I know you through just the fact we live together, and that's pretty much it.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay, so what we're going to do is just kind of like go general and then start to hone in on aspects of mental health, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, that sounds like.
We're not going to go straight into mega personal things first, just talk about autism and neurodivergency more so as a whole topic and your personal experience with it, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was great. Just in general, my experience with being, well, I'm not diagnosed. I'll say that first, just because I think, to an extent, I don't want to claim to be anything medically, but I think from my general life experience, I know quite a lot of people around me who are autistic. I tend to gravitate towards them, and it's been suggested. And I have a few friends that are diagnosed, and I generally have a lot of traits in common with them and that kind of thing, and we can definitely relate on those levels. And I think it's generally true that neurodivergent people tend to sort of group together. In terms of my experience with it, generally I'm quite happy with it, to be honest. I've always enjoyed it. I think when I was younger, I found it to be more limiting, just because I'd get, I've had a lot of tics always with these kind of things, and like I used to have embarrassing ones, like picking my nose and stuff like that, where I just couldn't stop doing it all the time, which is obviously embarrassing. Yeah. But that was when I was like, 7 or something, so something like that. But generally, I think for me with it, the kind of the passion that I think it's in me, but I think generally that kind of autistic or neurodivergent thing of having fixations and strong passions for things that I've always had my entire life has been really nice, I guess. I've really liked it. I think it's a massive part of who I am, probably my main sort of central being. I think that the limiting things have been struggling with reading people and just having a lot of doubt with that, which is, I think, pretty common, and also struggling to express how I feel, which especially in relationships I found difficult, where the way I found around it is doing it very bluntly, versus I'm not good at anything subtle, basically. Apparently I'm bad at making facial expressions and that sort of thing. I'm bad at a lot of my facial expressions are kind of imitated. I do struggle talking to people sometimes, but only people I don't know, which I think is normal. I think once I've got a read on an idea of who someone is, I get comfortable and then I'm fine. But I think that that might not be a neurodivergent thing, that might just be a personality trait.
Yeah, I mean, most of us have had experience with that sort of thing, meeting a new person.
Yeah, I think the idea of it being a social deficit doesn't really make sense to me, in the way that, like, if you can't do things, it limits your experience, but then you can do other things. Like I've known people that like have serious parts of their lives they can't engage with because of their neurodivergence, but that's because they don't want to. So it never feel. I think from an outside perspective looking in, it could be looked as a social deficit, but from the inside looking out, it doesn't feel the same way. Yeah. I don't think it hinders you if you don't understand why it's a thing that hinders you, I guess.
Exactly. It's hard to misunderstand. I think older generations and parents, they might hear that and almost see it as like a buzzword. Oh no, my kid might have autism or something like that. Generally, it's still quite misunderstood. Have you had issues with like people that you've just met or people you've known for a long time?
I think with the family, I've been quite lucky. My mum works with small children as well and is very interested in child development and all those things and in that stuff. So she's very read up on it, very interested in it, very fascinated by it. And I think quite a lot of my family members have traits and stuff like that. So I think generally it's been a pretty accepting experience. Yeah, I've never felt ostracized by it in my family. Socially, I think just struggling to click with people at first and taking time with it is the only thing I could ever say that's really I have found to be a deficit and not being able to engage in that way.
Yeah. Probably. With closer relationships, do you ever have issues?
Not ones that can't be gotten around with, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, I think issues in the sense that you can't go about things the traditional way with communicating and someone understanding how I'm trying to communicate with them and that kind of thing. Yeah. But I mean, that's only an issue until it's understood by the other person. That's like, if you're open about it and you're just like, look, I really can't communicate this way. I'm not good at picking up on those things. I'm not good at giving them back. Can we not do it? And then I found that people I've been closest with have been pretty accepting of that.
Yeah, generally it seems today like people our age at least are more accepting.
Yeah, and I think going back to the idea that probably neurodivergent people tend to come together because they communicate in similar ways. Broadly, a lot of my friends have had similar issues and similar experiences and try to communicate in that way versus more normal or whatever, however you want to put it, kind of ways.
You said earlier that your mum, we'll talk about like the fixations and the tics and things like that as we go, but you said about how your mum works with children and sees signs. Did she ever have that conversation with you? Did she ever see signs or as a kid? What were they?
No, I think my mum always knew, but then I always have doubts with my mum because I think my mum has a tendency to see it in everybody because it's the kind of confirmation bias when you're looking for it. But that could very much be because both me and my sister definitely had aspects of it where, I guess I grew up where it was just kind of, it was never we've discussed it now I'm older and we both think I am and all those kind of things. But
what things kind of pointed towards that as a kid? With like certain behaviours? Because I've had things like I couldn't go to the hairdressers, for example. I had that one.
Yeah. I did go to the hairdressers, but I screamed the house down, I think is what it is. I hate it, and I still hate the hairdressers. I now don't go to the hairdressers. I get it done by Evan's sister.
Yeah.
Just because I hate it. I always have. I think, I don't know if it's the sensations.
For me, it was always the noise and the kind of pressure to sit still for a while.
It might have been the sitting still. I guess maybe the memories are just kind of gone. But I just remember hating it vividly, and that they'd always. I mean, my mum would always have my hair cut to scalp me basically, just so that I wouldn't have to go again.
Yeah, of course. I had that for sure, but there were other things like. Yeah,
like I said, with the tick ones, like I used to have the most embarrassing. Like I used to do. It was so gross. Where I'd like. But I won't do it obviously, but I'd like spit and then fall down and suck it back up, and I'd love that when I was like 5, 6, and obviously it's just like, Freddie, don't do that, you're in public, and that kind of thing. It was like, never got those, or just I couldn't stop, and it's all those kind of things. Like I remember I had a whole year of my life where I'd like click non-stop constantly because I never could before, and then I just loved it so much.
No, you can't explain it. It's just like a thing you naturally do subconsciously.
Simple things that I guess a parent picks up on, especially if they're looking for those things, which was I'm actually very grateful for, because I know from a few friends I've had similar experiences. Parents can often go the other way, and because they've known the child for all their life, ago, no, that's not a trait of this, that's just you. Like my friend who has to eat all of their food separately, each bit on a separate area of the plate. They're like, no, that's not a neurodivergence thing, that's just who you are.
You do get some parents who are hesitant to accept it as a part of their kid, almost like some people see it more as a flaw or like a hindrance to their growing up, when it's just in reality another aspect of it.
I think it's the thing where like I'd like to believe that in the future that it stops being worried about so much and stops not even being, I guess I was going to say stops being talked about, but I like it being talked about, but stops being a thing that people really notice, if that makes sense. It's because I do believe that everyone's on that spectrum to an extent. I mean,
do you think we're moving in that direction generally as society?
I think we're just getting better at diagnosing it, I reckon. From people I've spoke to in the child development kind of sector, one or two people, I won't claim to have read any papers or anything, but I think that's the general trait, is that people have got a lot better at spotting it in more subtle traits, and because of the sort of sexist way people used to do science, I guess, in the way people are a lot better at spotting it in women, whereas before, because it manifests itself differently, obviously, so before, male autism is very well understood, and the way I have it is kind of more classical. I think humans, they always have that tendency to rigidly box things in their head, and I guess the more you look at science, the more it is very fluidy and a bit of this and a bit of that, and it's the more you try to categorize things, the less you understand it. And I think if we kind of let go of that and stop putting it into boxes, we'll be able to understand people as individuals better, rather than as a person with like a checkbox. And so I think I like talking about it, I like thinking about it, because I think it's good to understand who you are and to accept that. But like I don't think I want to wear it with pride or anything, because I think it hinders me in some ways and benefits me others. It's just one tweak as to who I am. The same way if I was taller, I might have a different life.
Exactly.
You know,
it doesn't define you. It's not a major feature. It doesn't dictate how you think.
It's just one thing in the sort of the way of who you are. It molds you a bit, but it's nothing to be. In the same way, I don't think any one trait of a person you should be, I don't know, like a thing that's inherent to you. I don't get the idea of being proud about that. I just think it's a thing. You should be proud of what you do with it, or something like that. Makes sense to me. But
talking about the tics, we'll move on to that.
Oh God, all right.
No. Yeah. So obviously, many people have different ones. You talked about the clicking. As a kid, I always would rub my toes together and click them in a certain way.
Oh, I never had that one.
No, it's not the best one.
My favourite at the moment's this one. I'm gonna that, just doing that back and forth. So fun.
That one before.
Oh, you should try it. It's great.
Yeah. So did some of these carry on from when you were a kid, or?
Yeah, I think as I got a better sense of what's socially acceptable, like I managed to cut some out. Some of them are just an absolute nightmare, to be honest. Like I have a horrible one I get for like months at a time. Well, it's not horrible, but where I just like do this constantly, because I love how it feels, but what I do is I rip my hair out. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Like,
I've accidentally hurt myself with the toe thing and crack my knuckles.
I don't even think about them. I guess they're so subconscious that they're just like a very passive.
Yeah, something you catch yourself doing.
You catch yourself doing, but I rarely catch it these days. Even that, but I do find it interesting, because I don't know if you find this, but I always find that when I'm doing just anything with my hands or something, I find it so much easier to think and to talk. Like if I had to sit here with my arms kind of crossed like this, I think I would start to sort of fault as I speak, and lose my train of thought. But as soon as like my body's preoccupied with something, I find that like I don't know, it's almost like my brain, I don't have to think about what I'm going to say, it just comes out that way. Whereas if I'm doing nothing,
it's easier to concentrate when your mind's absently distracted. It might be, do you have like a lot of thoughts going through your head at once? Because in my experience, I like to roll wool between my fingers whilst talking, and I don't even realise I'm doing it.
Yeah, just anything. I'll take anything. And I've had it before. I'll just grab something and play with it, and I'll put it down, and then I've like stolen someone's ring by accident or something like that. But I've always found, I think it's a useful thing to know, because I always found that when I've had tougher times, or I've been very anxious, or I've had something like big that's gone on in my life to process, something really that I can't sort of sit there and think about it. I've got to be doing something. So I think being aware of that, I've always had like a simple technique where I've literally just I've got like a few games that I play, like computer games, like they're very simple, they're just running and jumping, usually something like that I can basically play completely passively, completely mindlessly. And I find that whatever that does to my, like, that aspect of my brain, it's the same sensation as tics, and I found it really helps with being able to think, and your mind just goes and goes, and it can really get to the end of it, that's the only way I know how to do that. Yeah, I think the only one I struggle with nowadays is the hair one, and I'm conscious because I'm about to do it, and I don't want to. You're
welcome to if you want.
No, I don't want to. I really don't want a bald spot.
Right, fair enough.
It takes a lot of time to get me off it. Usually I'll do it for like 2 months straight.
Right, do you have to focus specifically on telling yourself not to do it? Like I say, I always catch myself and then stop. I
have to focus, and I usually find myself an hour later doing it, and I've been doing it for like 20-30 minutes. God,
it's just so easy to get to the process, the rhythm of it.
Yeah, I can't control that part of my brain, to be honest. I don't think I have any control of it at all. It's completely off on a limb. It's doing its own thing. I can't stop it. Just one day I decide I'm bored of playing with my hair. Maybe the fear of balding finally gets to me. Maybe the anxiousness finally, the paranoia kicks in.
You said before we did the interview that you'd had experience with seeking professional help for the anxiety.
For anxiety, yeah, briefly. Not for a long time. I did it last year. I went to therapy, but I only had a couple sessions before stopping. Mainly because my anxiety got a lot better. But I definitely had phases of being very, very anxious. Obviously, when I was younger, I was very anxious. I think most people in their teenage years are pretty anxious. I think that's quite common. It's hard for me to tell how. I was definitely surrounded by a lot of anxious people, just whatever reason. My friends a lot of them are like on medication for it now, thankfully. So I think that it's hard to scale how anxious you are, but I guess that doesn't matter. Shouldn't be a thing you compete with.
No, of course. I think a lot of older people generally box in people our generation as in like, what do they have to worry about? Why are they so anxious? Exams, growing up, even looking after yourself on a basic level can just be so much.
Yeah, I found it's been a lot better the past, 10 months or so, I'd say arbitrarily, maybe 6 months, something like that. Well, I don't know, something just clicked in my head where I was like, you probably should be anxious. And then it's felt a lot better. I was like, yeah, well, I'm still anxious a lot of the time about things, but I'm sort of thinking, like I was anxious about doing this interview, obviously, but that's a big problem. I think I probably should have been anxious about doing this interview. Like that's the normal thing to be nervous about. Mm-hmm. So I think as soon as that kind of clicked, a lot of the time, especially with social settings, I was like, another thing was just setting stronger boundaries. I think that's one of the things that I got from therapy, was just putting that line, because I think a lot of the things that made me anxious were things that were completely my own fault, where it'd be like I'd be invited to something I didn't want to go to, and then I, shock horror, wouldn't want to go to it and would be anxious about going. So it's a very easy fix, is just stop doing that.
So with the anxiety, and specifically the sessions you had around it, you said you only had a couple. What kind of direction did those go in? Like, how did they kind of try and help you?
Well, I had a specific issue at the time, in that I was in basically a half relationship that I wasn't happy in. Was very much what was going wrong. And obviously I've always had anxiety, but that was bringing everything out. As in, that was, I think that was making me mentally fragile. So all the other kind of base level of anxieties that are normal, and everyone's anxious, so they all became big and imposing and all around, and I was struggling to function for a while. So I think it was November of the year before last, and I think I was struggling just to go about my day. It was just one of those things where I was just like, I don't want to go outside, I don't want to do my work. I was just struggling to focus on anything because I was so just rolling around in my head. So I thought, right, okay, I'm going to get therapy, I'm going to sort this out. And the main direction was mindfulness, because I knew a bit about it first before going in, and I tried to use it in my life. But I think, even though like I got a few techniques which were very useful from it that I still use to these days, but I think generally a lot of what helped from therapy was just having someone with a qualification going, yeah, just do this works. And not like it's going to make you better, but obviously the idea of therapy isn't to get better, it's just to get good habits, saying this is a positive thing to do in your life. I don't want to misconstrue the idea. And I thought mindfulness was just a really quite amazing, actually, and it's so simple. It's one of those simple things of just trying to be present, and I've got it in aspects of my life, but like I think just trying to, I think the main technique, the big two, was one was like very simple, was just focus on your 5 senses in like a rundown. I was going, okay, if you start, because usually when you're anxious, I mean, you're so lost in your head that it brings you right out there, and you go, okay, what can I see? And you just go into like extreme detail. What can I hear? Okay, what can I smell? You go through it, and at the end you find yourself a lot calmer. And yeah, the problem hasn't gone, but I guess it feels quieter, less distant.
It's more in the background.
And it's amazing. It really does work. It's just shocking how well it works.
Exactly. I think less people know to practice it, because there's such an emphasis on like productivity and driving forward, especially in like recent years, amongst people.
It has been, hasn't it? Yeah.
I feel like more people are gonna possibly, hopefully not,
people
lose
gonna
focus.
crack.
Exactly.
You gotta be present. No, I find that my favorite one is to focus on like just something really small. Like take, I don't know what the camera can see. Take one of these and really like zoom in on it, and just like focus on like a very small chunk of and then really look at it and really think in great detail about that. Good. And if you just keep doing that until you feel bored, and that's probably, and by the time you feel bored by it, you're probably no longer panicking so much.
Exactly. It's the focus you give to it.
It's the serious focus. For me, it was about not pushing myself and being kind, which was the thing I wasn't doing, because I was trying so hard academically at the time to push forwards, because it was my first semester of university and doing maths. I was really trying to go for it, and obviously that's quite hard, and sometimes it was about going, right, I'm absolutely not good today, I'm going to stay in bed, and I'm going to focus on cooking myself a good meal, having a shower, brushing my teeth, going for a walk, and nothing else. And you don't have to even engage in anything else until tomorrow. And then maybe by the time you'd spent all that time cooking the meal, those kind of activities are quite mindful. You're probably an orange, and maybe you can then the next day keep going and do a bit more, but not pushing yourself, basically, was all it was.
Exactly, it's a philosophy.
It is a philosophy, because I think some people really like to try like push through stoic mindset.
Yeah.
Not for me.
No.
It definitely works for some people. I think it depends on who you are. Just not very stoic.
Yeah, no, neither. I mean, I just use those terms of useful and productive. I think generally more people our age especially, need to move away from those terms. Like, there is no being useful, there is no being productive other than just looking after yourself on the most basic level. That can be all that you can be asked of sometimes.
It's like, that's first, no matter what. No matter how important all these things are to you in your head, that's like, what's in your head is the most important, and putting that first.
Yeah.
And yeah, most of the time that's what people do, but sometimes I guess people lose their way and they drive themselves into a ditch kind of thing. But sometimes I find, like, specifically during exams, actually, I find that if I'm being really productive, that, like, I guess the serotonin or whatever, the good chemicals in your head that you get from studying hard then are quite good for your mental health. But then I guess it's about understanding when that ceases to be good and you're starting to, like, sleep deprive yourself.
Exactly.
And stuff like
so
that.
many people are burnt out nowadays. I see it casually. People in my course, myself, it creeps up on you. It does, and then you just realise I can't.
Your just head's so full all the time. Yeah, and they expect a lot from you, and that's okay. You know, it's good to work hard, but then it's also good to go, right, well, you know, you don't own me, I'm gonna...
Yeah, exactly. Maybe more people need to understand or just preach themselves that, you know, the key to maybe a productive and happy life is just being forgiving of yourself and your limits. I was watching an interview last night, or a documentary, around the oldest psych ward in Britain, and obviously those are much more extreme cases, so to speak, but I learned that one therapeutic technique that they use is to not validate the anxiety that someone might be going through, because obviously in the most extreme cases people believe things that absolutely have no credence, aren't based in reality at all, and they're trained not to feed into that or validate it at all. Was that something that they did with you?
Not that I can remember specifically. I think in the sense of saying that, like, that you try to detach your anxiety from who you are as a person and accept that, or less so even your anxiety, more just your thoughts, because I guess it's generally that it's good to think about, or at least I try to think sometimes about my thoughts as detached from my own, because I definitely have a thing where I'll get like a repetitive anxious thought when I'm stressed. Like, I remember having it once that I was going to have a heart attack for about a month. Just, I was going to have a heart attack. I'm going to have a heart attack any second now. And it's because it was exam season, I was stressed. And one time I think it was that I was going to have a foot fetish or something like that. Just usually something that, you know, no judgment if you have a foot fetish, but just it ain't me. And so I didn't want one. Yeah. So it was just an anxious, repetitive thought. And obviously I have no control over that. I can't stop the thought coming through. So in that sense, I guess, not validating in that way and saying you've got no control over your thoughts. But I think for me, with a lot of things I'm anxious about, I think I do like to not validate it, I suppose, but look at it as in, like, sometimes you're anxious for a reason, and try to find, even if the anxious thought isn't what is the problem, trying to, like, not just ignore it. In those cases, you know, it's clear it's because of exam stress or something stressful in your life, and going, okay, I'm having this thought. This thought's not valid, but it's not appeared out of nowhere. There's a reason why, and trying to look at it through that lens versus maybe trying to shut it out. So
yeah, you said that you had hyperfixations earlier. What are these generally for you?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's bird watching. I'm absolutely, utterly obsessed with birds. I have been since I was about 5, and it's interesting actually because I was looking back at my life before I was 5. I've got 20 memories tops. You know, I don't remember much about when I was 3, but I remember quite a lot of bird-based memories. So I don't know if it was something incredibly innate in me that was just like a serious attachment to nature or something like that. But like, I think I went to Australia when I was 3, and I remember like 7 memories, and all of them are bird related.
Yeah.
Which I think that's my big one. And then I've always gone through phases of hyperfixations. Like, I definitely had a Doctor Who one about 2 months ago, and I've just got really obsessed with Stardew Valley. Like, I just get really into one thing for like 2 months until I'm just like and drain it, and just until I don't know, it just stops. One day it literally just stops.
You just gotta lose interest in it.
I think something else takes over. It's less, I never lose interest in something. Something else is like, whoa, it's the big thing, and then that's all front and center. But birds for my entire life, right at the front of everything, every week, every day. It's really innate in my life.
Yeah, and obviously that ties into your relationship with nature, and you spoke before we met about how that is in itself like a therapy for you. Is there anything you want to talk about with that?
No, I'd like to talk about that really, because I guess I just really value it, and I wanted to not advertise it, but I guess just sort of suggest it, just because it's been a really massive part of my life, and it's had probably more than anything else I can really tangibly, more than therapy or anything that I've had, has been the biggest help in everything. Just the I guess the sense of it's hard to explain. I guess the sense of calm and the sense of presence that it delivers. Like I talked about earlier, I guess I'll try to link it back into that idea of mindfulness and being present, and with bird watching and with being in nature, because I mean I personally think it's because you're meant to be there. You know, you come from being in a natural place. You know, your entire world in places like houses and businesses and all these, like in university, you're trying to make sense of kind of objects in through the lens of nature. You're always trying to understand it through that context, because that's how your brain is wired. And I really do believe that it takes its toll on people not living that natural life, and that any time you can spend in nature really makes a difference. And I think just whenever I'm there, I guess maybe it is the obsession that the rest of the time I'm thinking about it, and that's the moment I'm not thinking about it, it's just in front of me. I feel absolutely great. Just really, I remember so distinctly this one time. It's kind of like when you're there, there's been like a buzzing in your head, or like something that's so full in your head, and then all of a sudden it's just kind of gone, and your head feels so empty, and you don't really, the rest of the time I don't think you really realize it's there. You don't really like know that you're feeling that way until it's like, wow, it's like so clear and such clarity and such, I don't know, I could just go for hours and hours and hours, and it feels like minutes. You know, it feels like seconds. It's just, I think for my mental health, you know, I think people talk about like meditation and mostly mindfulness and all these different things. I think for me, I found it as a way to wrap all of those kind of ideas of self-care and put it into something that I'm very passionate about, to the point where it doesn't feel like working on yourself or anything like that. It just feels like doing my hobby. But all of those things are tied into it. You know, I don't meditate. Maybe I'd like to one time. I've tried it. I quite liked it, but it's something so meditative about just being in the moment, looking, that it has the same effect. I think it pretty much is the same thing on your brain.
Essentially, yes, the same effect. Just removing that kind of buzz, any sort of stress or just kind of lingering. That's my experience.
Yeah. If you focus on one task and you don't want to do anything else, and you've got no thoughts outside of that, because nothing else particularly matters in that moment, it's the same kind of freeing feeling, basically.
It can be difficult for people who live in cities like this, and who, you know, spend so much time studying and balancing relationships and, you know, the academic side of life and visiting home and making time for family, to then go out and just have a minute to just completely be at one. How do you kind of like find the balance?
I force it, pretty much. You're right, it's really hard. And I think that's a big stress in my life, in that, I live close to Leeds, where I live, so I've got my uni friends, I've got my at-home friends, I've got my family, I've got my work, I've got just general rest and relaxation in here, and, you know, I've got to do all my normal life things like cooking and all of that, and then I want to find time for my hobbies, and maybe that's not even my own hobby. I like a lot of other things, like chess and reading and painting and all these things, but I don't find time for those. But I genuinely, just because I know it has such a good effect on me, and it has such a good effect for linking into all those other things, because it clears my head, I just force it through. I just say one day a week, I don't care what other commitments I have, I will make time. And I think that's the best way of doing things when you're passionate about them. It's you want to I think you need it in your life. I couldn't imagine living my life without it. I think I would feel like a sort of emptiness. I just couldn't. I think if you've got that and it's there and it's tangible, you've got to just seek it out and have it as much as you can manage. And you can tie other things into it too, like you can I have a lot of friends that I go bird watching with instead, and that's the sort of thing I'd say I can combine it with my social life and works like that, and that I find works. I like hanging out in nature with people. It's nice. As much as work and all these things are important, that in your head really you do want to just do silly little things like that a lot of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's really important.
All right, and then the last question, mainly, if you're happy with
that's
there, is two last questions mainly. How are you nowadays? Is the main thing.
Okay, all right.
Just generally, where are you at?
Mentally, I'm pretty good nowadays. I think I'm definitely in one of the better phases of my life. I think, I do feel very stressed a lot of the time with a lot of work. I think that's probably the main toll on my mental health these days, is that, like, I literally was just talking about that kind of push and like kind of being pulled in lots of different directions and feeling I need to monitor this and that, I need to work harder, I need to see more of these friends or those friends, and it's sort of that feeling of being spread too thin and trying to find time for yourself and all that. I think I still struggle with that. But in terms of a lot of the issues that have ailed me in the past, I feel like I've turned a pretty strong corner. I think reconnecting with nature in the last 2 years, specifically, it's always been there, but in the last 2 years I've really ramped it up and sort of forced it, has really made a difference. I feel a lot generally calmer.
Yeah.
And from having the therapy and having those good sort of techniques and a good support structure around me. So yeah, I guess overarchingly I feel pretty good these days.
Yeah, good.
Or at least I feel that whatever problems I'm encountering now are kind of fresh. I'm not sort of rehashing old issues that I haven't got past. You know, it feels like, you know, you grow up, you're going to find new struggles. I imagine struggling with time management is probably a big one of being an adult, isn't it? So
very much.
It's I think it's probably going to last a while, that one. So that's okay. I don't know. I don't want to be perfectly all right with everything, so...
Well, I guess no one ever can be, and if they say they are, then they're probably lying, aren't they?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, good. Glad to hear. And then the last thing is there anything that you wanted to say, basically, with the opportunity that is the documentary?
Should have asked me this before I came.
Sorry, you can take a second if you want to think. And if there's nothing at all, that's cool. Just
I will take 10 seconds to think, just carefully. No, I'm all right. I got nothing else to say.
That's totally cool. That's totally fine.
Brill.
All right, awesome, man. So, yeah,
Great.
Just thanks a lot.
Is that a wrap?
That's really good. I think that's a wrap, guys.